The attitude around the corn harvest this year is very positive.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Comstock channel. I'm Marlin Bohling with you. Always a treat to get to visit with you about ag issues and market related information as well. Want to remind you to like these videos and share these videos with others. You can subscribe by clicking on that bell icon down below, and that way we'll notify you every time we post a new update. Well, today I'm pleased to be joined by Shelly Pate Kerns. She is a corn specialist with Louisiana State University Extension. And I appreciate you joining us here, Shelly. I think a lot of our audience may be very interested to learn that you are getting well into corn harvest already in 2024. So it can't be that far away when we get into the southern reaches of the Midwest. If you would, give us an update on what you're finding out so far.
Thanks, Marlon. So corn harvest is off to a good start here in Louisiana. I would say we started getting the first reports of corn harvest about 2 weeks ago. And then right after that, we got very heavy rains for 2 weeks. And this week, the rain has let up, and we've heard people getting back in the field and getting back at harvest. This is really just the start. We had people plant a little slower this year compared to last year in March. As of March 25th of this year, we were way behind on planting as what we were in 2023. So I do expect harvest to pick up a little bit later in the month and maybe even further into September than what we're used to.
So why the delayed planting this year? Was it too wet, too dry, too hot, too cold? What happened?
So I think that a lot of people were really torn on if they were even going to plant corn this year. I've talked to two different kind of growers. I've talked to people who were raring to go mid-February, which is a little bit earlier than what we prefer on planting. And I've talked to people who kind of dragged their feet late into March on planting. I think a lot of it had to do with the mindset of the farmer. So we had a lot of growers here in Louisiana. I'm a little anxious about planting this year. Just, I'm sure you know, last year we experienced a very severe drought, which really set us behind on yield. That partnered with the low prices on corn, a lot of growers were anxious on planting corn this year. So I think a lot of it was just a mindset thing. I think people weren't sure if they were going to go with corn or not.
Why? Was cotton infringing on their choices or what?
I think what happened is that the weather was very good. So I think people were like, oh, I can hold off on planting. I don't have to be raring to go right at February. And then once we got into April, May, really heavy showers hit. And a lot of our growers that were planting cotton, for example, had to swap into a different crop, such as soybeans. So I think it was mindset partnered with weather patterns. I think we had some anxiousness, and then I think we had, oh, I can hold off on a little bit of a later planted crop, and then the rain really hit and set farmers back.
Makes perfect sense. Well, let me ask you this. Give us an idea geographically, where are you within the state right now?
So I'm stationed here at the Scott Center, which is in the northeast region of the state. We're in Winsboro, which is in Franklin Parish, Louisiana. And although I'm stationed in the northeast region, I have statewide responsibilities with LSU.
How far south do you have corn? Do you go all the way to the coast or not?
I personally have not been all the way down to the coast. I was looking at a acreage map from USDA earlier before our conversation. It does look like we have some very close to the coast. Typically, obviously, it's a little warmer down there usually. So corn's planted a little bit earlier than what we would see here in the northeast region in South Louisiana.
Well, have you had a chance to find out any yield results yet, or how are farmers feeling about what they see coming out of the field here this year?
Yeah, so we haven't had any official yield results. I haven't even had any estimates come in, just anecdotally talking to growers. But the attitude around the corn harvest this year is very positive. We talked about those rains maybe delaying some of those growers that were thinking, oh, I can hold off because the weather's really good and I think it's going to stay good. That really paid off for us in the long run, getting those rains, especially with that drought we experienced last year. It was very good for the corn crop. Overall, throughout the state, the corn's looking very good, very healthy. We've had a little bit of issues with foliar pathogens, but nothing that has decimated the crop on a larger scale, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm very excited. I'm very hopeful. I'm very happy that those growers that decided to go back in and plant corn again this year are probably going to see a much better experience than they did last summer. and last fall.
Do you think it's kind of similar all across the Deep South, like in Mississippi or Alabama? Have you heard similar reports for their corn condition this year?
I haven't talked to any of the other corn specialists throughout the South or the Mid South. I know that our rain patterns have been a little bit different when you compare us to a state like Mississippi. Even though we're bordering them, I am also the cotton specialist for LSU, and we were talking about rain patterns, the delayed plantings, and it seems like they've had the opposite problem on rain. So it'll be interesting to see what their corn crop is going to look like once it's all said and done this year.
Shelly, I'm intrigued. You were telling me before we started the interview that you work with grain sorghum as well.
I do.
Now, that's something that I grew up with. I used to farm in northern Kansas, as everybody knows, but I wasn't aware that you really had that much grain sorghum in northern Louisiana. Is that a pretty common crop there?
I would say that actually the majority of the sorghum is grown in towards southern Louisiana. I think that anecdotally, again, just talking to growers, we're going to have an increase in acreage. I don't know exactly what those numbers are, but it seems like more people were prone to plant sorghum this year as compared to the last couple of years. Grain sorghum used to be a really big crop in Louisiana, and it has really, really fluctuated in the last decade. So it's good to see that some growers are adopting that back into our state's agricultural economy.
All right. So far, so good, the way it sounds with corn and grain sorghum in that part of the country there. When do you think you'll be wrapping up corn harvest in that part of the world, in the northern part of Louisiana?
So as I said, some growers have already started harvesting corn. I have some research plots here across the road on station. Right now we're sitting at about 20% moisture. I'm going to check that again on Friday. So I would say in the next few weeks, as long as it stays dry, as long as our fields stay dry and the moisture content gets down, we'll start harvesting here. And I think statewide, we should be wrapped up, hopefully, by the beginning of October. I do see a little bit later harvest dates, probably later into September than what we're used to. But again, that's just because we were way behind on planting numbers in March compared to what we were on planting last year. So I do expect it to be a little later this year.
Did I understand correctly that you grew up in northwestern Tennessee?
Yes.
All right. How would you compare the growing season where you are now compared to when you grew up in Tennessee? Is it vastly different or not?
I keep getting these questions about my experience in Tennessee versus what it is in Louisiana, not just about agriculture, but just culture and life in general. I would say that Louisiana and Tennessee are have a lot of similarities. I think that as far as the crop and the practices were very similar. West Tennessee is a very heavy no-till state, so we do have a lot more pest issues. But as far as what the crop is going to look like at the end of the year, I hear great reports out of Tennessee too. So I think it's coming along nicely in Tennessee as well.
Well, Shelly, I sure do appreciate the update. It's great to hear from you, and I wish you and everybody around there all the best. I hope they have a terrific harvest this year and look forward to maybe more reports coming out of that area here in the very near future. I appreciate that a lot. Thanks for the time. Shelly Pate Kerns with us. She is a corn specialist with LSU Extension. And that'll do it for this episode. We sure thank you for joining us. And for producer Brianne Hendrickson, I'm Marlin Bohling. We'll catch you next time right here on the Comstock channel. Thanks for joining us on our Comstock YouTube channel. Don't forget you can also find us on Facebook and TikTok as well. Futures trading involves risk. The risk of loss in trading futures and or options is substantial, and each investor and or trader must consider whether this is a suitable investment. Past performance is not indicative of future results.